So here I'm just sanding down my cup. This is the first step for all of my cups. Just make sure that it's sanded down really well. That way the paint can adhere. Next I'm gonna paint my cup gold. Since I want my cup to be gold glitter, I just make sure that the base is also gold. Okay guys, so for this part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get that holographic glitter effect, and I'm going to use the tack it over and over, and I'm going to use 2 parts water and 1 part tack it. And I already mixed my water in here. You can tell it's super diluted. And you're also going to need a sponge brush or just a regular bristle brush, but make sure when you apply the coats that it's like super thin. Also, you're gonna need a holographic cut glitter. You can usually tell just by looking at it. I don't remember where I got this one from. I put it in my baby food container. But yeah, I got this from, I think, Glitter Mama. I'm not sure. It doesn't even have a label on it. But I'm gonna use this glitter. And yeah, if you don't know, it usually says in the description like this one is a pearlescent one. Like this one's not gonna give you that effect. It has to be the holographic one. Okay, so to start off, just make sure you mix your tack it with your water really well. And once you do, we're just going to apply it. Oh, my hair. Okay, you're just gonna apply it all over the cup. And I like to do it 3 times just to make sure that it like has good coverage. So you just carefully and thin coats, remember I said. So yeah, because it's with a sponge brush, at least it's like super streaky. I don't know if you guys can see. So wherever, like, you can see the streaks whenever you do the tacking method, and you don't want that. We just want it to be seamless and nice. I like to really make sure I have like everything covered. I know I already went over like these same spots, but just I feel better if I go over them twice or 3 times. Okay, so I already went over it once. And I don't know if you can see, but it has like a whole lot of streak marks all over it. So I'm just gonna go over it 2 more times, but you have to let it kind of will get tacky in between. That's the whole point of the method. So yeah, you could usually feel once it's tacky, but I'm also gonna show you guys another way of how I know once it's ready for the second coat. So now it's ready for the second coat. I'm not sure if you have to put this many coats. I just like to. I feel better about it. And it took about, I want to say like 5 minutes in between. I only had enough time to set up my cups and not to actually epoxy them. Okay, so now the second coat is done. Hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, I'm gonna let it dry again and finish setting up my cups while we do the third coat. Okay, so my last coat is done, and now we're just gonna wait, and then the fun part of doing the holographic glitter part. I'm just gonna set this aside. I'm not sure if I can save that or not, but I don't know what to do with it. So I'm gonna set that and my brush aside, and then I'll come back whenever it's time to put the glitter. Okay, so now it's time to do the last part. And I use a glove. I don't know if you need to, but I use a glove that doesn't fit me. Let me open this first. And this is one of the first glitters I bought, and I was just like putting them in my son's old like baby food jars, but now I have some professional shakers. Okay, so now it's pretty much dry. It just has like a few little spots left, but tacky and ready. Okay, so you pretty much just glitter it as you always would. Okay, so now once you've done it, you have every part covered, you just literally just rub it gently. And the cool part, well, I think it's cool, is that like the extra, it literally, like, you can save it, well, reuse it. And it uses like barely glitter. It's so pretty. I'm gonna show you guys right now so you can see the difference. Okay, so you see how this part right here is like, I don't know, like holographic and thin, and then this part's kind of like looks chunkier. So that's the look you're going for, and it looks so beautiful once it's done. So yeah, you're gonna do that to the whole cup, and then the whole thing's gonna be like holographic. It's so pretty. That's why I don't wear clothes. Okay, so now it's done. Can you guys see the difference? It's so pretty. I mean, it's pretty with just regular, just the glitter method, but this just gives it like a different look that I like. It's super smooth. Like usually when you epoxy, look, I'll show you. Well, I'll try to show you. Usually like the glitter is super chunky, which is beautiful too, but it's just different. No, this is a different color, but you see how this one's like super smooth and this one's like, usually takes like 2 or 3 coats to get glitter smooth, but this one just takes 1 coat. So yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. I let it sit overnight. I don't know if you have to. And I also don't seal it. Again, that's what I do. If you guys feel more comfortable sealing it, then you can. But I don't, and I'm just gonna let it sit overnight just to be safe because I don't want to mess up this beauty. And then I'll epoxy it tomorrow. I'm just gonna show like a brief clip of that because I'm assuming if you're watching this tutorial, you already know how to do that, but I'll still add it in there. So here I am just prepping my vinyl. I already cut it out. I'm just getting it ready so I can apply it onto the cup. It's a mixture of Oracle and Cricut vinyl. I bought them all at Michael's, I believe. So yeah, I'm just gonna get it ready and that way I can put it onto the cup. So the file itself, I actually just found it on Pinterest and I just like did it myself. Also the same thing for the golden ticket. I just searched on Pinterest till I found one that I liked and I just uploaded it onto Cricut Design Space myself. So here I kind of struggled to get it on there. I always do because it's a 30-ounce cup, which is not flat, so it doesn't really sit properly. You kind of have to wiggle it around and Mickey Mouse it in some spots so it can actually be like perfectly flat. So I always put the outline on separately just because it was hard to get the Wonka bar down flat on its own. So I find that if I do each of them separately, I can always get it down perfectly fine. So right here you can tell that I am peeling off the transfer tape from the vinyl just because it was working against me, because it kind of makes it more stiff. I find that once I have one side on, I can just cut the other one and lay it down flat myself. So here I'm just cutting off a little excess piece that was bugging me. If you are happy with how it looks already, then you can just skip this step, of course. For the golden ticket, I use a water slide and I seal it, of course, 3 times just because there's no way I'm going to cut out all of those little words in vinyl. So here I am just dipping the water slide in the water. If you don't know how to use water slides, I recommend you watch a separate video for that. But if you do, then you already know, just put it in the water and you kind of have to gently slide it off. It does take some, well, for me at least, it took a learning curve, but once you get it, it's very useful to know how to use this. So finally I have both sides to my liking. I'm gonna just let this dry for a few hours and then I'm gonna epoxy it. This is pretty much gonna be the final coats. I usually do 2, but if 3 is needed, then I'll do 3. Here I'm just using the heat gun just to pop out any bubbles and make it just completely flawless. I did this off camera, but you would just mix epoxy like you usually would and put in the colors for your desired look. Okay guys, hopefully you can see like everything I'm gonna do here good. I'm gonna start by showing you what I'm gonna use. So I mixed my epoxy approximately about, I want to say 3 hours ago. And right now it's pretty thick. So also I just want to excuse the noisy background because I'm inside my house obviously. So yeah, I mixed this about 3 hours ago and it's really thick. Hopefully it's as thick as I need it to be, because if not, if it's runs faster or it's like really runny, that's gonna be determine how long you have to like babysit it. I know some people use like some other type of component to do this and make it thick faster, but I just already am used to this method, so this is why I do it like this. So yeah, I just let my epoxy sit. In the summertime, it doesn't have to sit as long. It's probably about 45 minutes because it's warmer. But right now, it's still pretty cold and yeah, it takes longer. So this has been sitting for about 3 hours and it's really thick and I hope it's ready. And then to get this color, because I mean, you could just use acrylic paint, like brown acrylic paint, but I don't have any. So I used a little bit of orange. I used like a burgundy color, a burgundy makeup color, and I also put black in it just to make it darker, and it just gives me the perfect chocolate look. So I continue to do it like this. But like I said, you can also use makeup or acrylic paint and just put it in your epoxy and it should work just as well. Okay, so let me see if I can turn up the brightness and it'll make it better. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, so this is the cup. It has about 3 coats of epoxy on it already. So I just do it until it's smooth, and you don't want it to have any imperfections because this is the final step. After I put the drips on it, I have never gone back to put another coat of epoxy. So if there's any type of like unsmoothness or any type of imperfection that you want to, like, you know, finish sealing off with epoxy, I would recommend you do that first, just because of course you want the drips to be like poking out 3D. So I'll show you guys. I don't need the paint really, I'll show you guys what I'm going to use that for in a bit. Okay, so I just start, since it's the first drip, a thing I like to do is putting it somewhere where I don't mind if it drips lower than like over my vinyl, just because I don't know how fast it's gonna run. So I'm gonna put it right here just to see how fast it runs. Like I said, I put it in a spot where it doesn't really matter to me if I have a deep drip, because like right here I prefer to not drip over the vinyl too much. So I'm gonna put it there, and I usually like to sit it down to see how fast it's dripping, because sometimes, I don't know, when it's cold I leave it outside and it feels thick, and then I bring it inside and I start putting it on my cup and it's still running. So I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know if it has to do with the temperature and it just feels kind of thicker than it is because it's cold, but yeah. Another trick, if you leave it too long and it's too thick, because like the first time it's kind of like figuring it out. It's different for different epoxies. The one I use is the Amazing one, the Amazing Clear Cast. So for that particular brand, I feel that 45 minutes when it's warm or 3 hours when it's cold works best. But I mean, you have to kind of play around with that and figure out what works best with the epoxy you use. So yeah. So right now it's dripping. It's going to be a pretty thick drip, and it's probably going to get really low. I also don't like my drips to be like super low. Like I feel like this is my ideal length for a drip. But it just depends on what you want, what kind of look you want your customers going for. And yeah, just play around with that and you'll see what you like. Ideally, it's best to do this in the garage, just because I don't recommend using epoxy in your house. But right now, because it's cold and I have my kids, I have to kind of do it right here in my kitchen. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a rhyme of reason. I just apply the epoxy and let it naturally drip. None of my drips are the same. I mean, it's kind of impossible to get the same drips on every cup, I think, or at least I can't do it. All my drips are a little different. So if you want more of a single drip look, like a lot of single drips, then of course you should just apply it straight like that. For me, I like when some of them are bunched up and some of them are single, so I do different all over the cup. And I just do that because I don't like to get a lot of strings everywhere. It just minimizes cleanup. So that's why I do, like, I pull it like that and I just try to put the excess. And don't worry if you get like new little, what, I don't know what you call it, like strings on the other thing. Everything will smooth out if you put it on at the same time. So it's dripping already. It's pretty nice, pretty much where I want it to be. So I kind of need to hurry up to finish the rest of the drips. And for amount, I'm not even sure how much I use. I mixed about 60 mLs total of epoxy, and I epoxied 5 cups. And I also did like some beach tumblers, so I poured a little bit of white into a different cup, and then I poured this. I probably poured about half of it, and that is more than enough for me for a 30 ounce. Because if you don't pour enough, then it's gonna be it's gonna be too thin. It's gonna thin out too much, and it's not gonna give you like a really opaque color. That's another thing, is if you feel like it's like you're trying to stretch it out too much, I don't recommend that. I would just do what I can and then let it dry, and then come back either probably the next day and do the other part. I also personally don't recommend doing multiple drip cups, especially at like one time, especially if you are new, just because they do require like I said, some babysitting time, and you don't want to get overwhelmed. And you see right here I got like a string, but I'm gonna clean that up later. So that's pretty much how I'm gonna let it sit. I think I'm happy with that. And it's pretty messy, so you should use like a silicone pad or something, because it's pretty messy. Okay, so from here I let it start dripping, and even though some of them are new, this is what I use the spray paint for, is you have to be flipping it over like for about an hour. I usually do. And you can't leave at first. I leave it for like a minute, or I just watch it and see, because then it'll start dripping down backwards. You see, like this. So you have to be literally babysitting it the whole time. And then you set it, and that's how you avoid getting super low drips, or that's how I avoid it. I know some people just put their drips on it and they just let it do its magic. But I like to, control where my drips are, and I use a spray paint can for this size cup. And you're just gonna be flipping it over continuously. After about like 30 minutes, you can kind of leave it and then come back I usually set a timer, come back every 5 minutes, and then after that, come back every 10 minutes. After another 30 minutes, come back every 15. About until probably like, I would say 2 hours is when I would just leave it. Of course, sometimes I put drips on too soon. Sometimes I put the drips on too soon, and then it's really runny, and then I have to babysit it longer. So make sure you set time aside. Like, don't just drip your cup and then leave the house. Well, I wouldn't do that, just because you don't know how it's gonna look. You're not gonna be there to see where they are, and you're gonna come home and then your drips are like to the floor. I don't know, I don't like when that happens. This one's even gonna be lower than I actually want it to be. You can also use like the little sticks. Try to use something that's skinnier than your cup, so you don't have to, like, you don't have any hiccups and accidentally hit the side right here. Because I know one time I tried doing the little small sippy cups and using this, and it was like so close that it was just nerve-wracking. So yeah, I use the spray paint cans. I mean, it's not as professional, but it works. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not that difficult. It's just mainly about getting the consistency right, and knowing, once you kind of figure out the consistency you need, it's pretty easy. I always do 1 cup drip at a time, just because I like to focus on it. I recommend setting a timer, because if you forget about it even 15 minutes in the first 2 hours, like, it really can make a big difference. So I'm pretty happy with how the drips are. I'm just gonna clean this up with some acetone, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll show you guys a final picture right now of how it turns out, but that's how I do my Willy Wonka drip cup. It's pretty easy. It's not too difficult, if you're scared of doing drips, it's not that hard. Start with a smaller cup, with the little sippy cup, or the small 12-ounce straw cups also. I really love these drips today. Came out great. So let me just clean this up with acetone really fast. Alrighty, thank you guys for watching my tutorial on how to do a Willy Wonka drip cup. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be making another one coming soon. Bye!